As we start this video, I just want to say one more time that want to be careful not to claim that this is a representation of the evaluation approach, procedure, framework that we're going to be discussing, because it's not. It's just meant as a general high-level overview of a popular approach, in this instance, objectives and key results, that people often talk about using, and to look at what its general features are, what some of its limitations or criticisms might be, as well as what we might take away from it that can be useful and beneficial towards creating more participatory and inclusive evaluation approaches. One of the biggest issues in organizations is that the goals are not well formulated. They can't be remembered easily, and they're not well communicated or understood. One time I was speaking with an administrator and I said, what's our goal here? What are we supposed to be doing? And the person referred me to the mission statement, as if anybody's going to remember the mission statement. Nothing wrong with our mission statement. It's a lovely document. But mission statements, as far as they go, typically don't lead to a clear, well-articulated framework regarding what is it that we're supposed to be doing. They might be aspirational, but not necessarily give us a firm direction in terms of how to achieve these things. And so while people may talk about things like key performance indicators or KPIs, these metrics may not be seen as relevant to people's work outside of the fact that they're being measured against them, and that somebody made the decision that the key performance indicators were important to the goals. And they might be, right? The key performance indicators might be important to reaching these goals, but not always. And we want to be very careful in thinking about something like KPIs. Are they well articulated? Are they meaningfully held? Do people understand why they're being measured against them? And are they aligned with the organization goal and mission? And with KPIs, they're typically set up by somebody who's higher in the organization to track performance of workers. That's why they're called key performance indicators. And as such, there is little to no employee ownership over these measures. In fact, these measures can feel like they are burdensome or onerous, and as a result, can reduce employee experience. One example that I hear a lot about is something called Net Promoter Score. And there might be a certain key performance indicator around Net Promoter Score. But what you might see is that people are actually gaming their interactions to result in a high NPS. And so I've heard a lot of stories of people at the end of an encounter with a worker, have the worker say, can you please give me a 10 rating because I need it for my key performance indicator or to have a high Net Promoter Score. And so if people are only working to the key performance indicator, are they really serving the mission of the organization? So this is where we get objectives and key results as a different kind of approach. OKRs were started by Andy Grove at Intel. And he then taught the approach to John Doerr, who encapsulated the approach in a book, Measure What Matters. And I have read this book and I really like this book. It makes a lot of great points, and I do recommend taking a look at it when you can to understand not just the OKR approach, but this more fundamental point. Are you measuring what matters? And OKRs have experienced a lot of attention, especially in the tech space. Companies that use them include Google, Intel, LinkedIn, Spotify, and Netflix, among others. And the formulation of OKRs is deceptively simple, and it can be formulated in the following way. I will, what is the objective, as measured by key result. And that's it. I will do something, and I'll know I did it by measuring it in this way. And whatever I'm doing is going to be aligned to the organizational mission, as well as, and this is an important point, my own personal goals. So it's not just organizational goals, but it's also what I'm looking to achieve and what I'm looking to do in my work and in my professional journey. Going deeper into the formula, we have objectives and key results defined in the following way. Objectives are qualitative, aspirational, and inspirational goals that are short. Key results are quantifiable outcomes, generally 2 to 5, that demonstrate changes in behavior. This image from the website whatmatters.com, an article by Ryan Panchadsaram, lays out the difference between the objectives and the key results. An objective is the place where you want to get to. It's the destination on the road. The key results are the signposts or markers that let you know what kind of progress you are making to that objective or toward that objective. As it indicates, key results are meant to be aggressive or stretch goals that are also achievable. We want to push ourselves. The goals are meant to inspire us to reach this point and also provide an understanding of why we're trying to reach it in the first place. So it's not just a KPI that's decontextualized. It's here's this aspirational goal that we're trying to reach, and here are the ways, or here are the measurements, the signposts that we need to hit in order to reach it. An example provided by the company Allbirds demonstrates how they were trying to move to greater sustainability. They created the objective of create the lowest carbon footprint in our industry. And then they had 4 key results. So key result 1, supply chain and shipping infrastructure, 100% zero waste. 2, pay 100% carbon offset for calculated carbon dioxide emissions. 3, 25% of material is compostable. 4, 75% of material is biodegradable. But as I said, it's not just the goals of the company that can be considered or just should be considered in doing OKRs. Employees can also set their own OKRs related to their roles, their work, and what they inspire to, or what they aspire to, what inspires them to aspire, I guess. Teams likewise can set OKRs as well by looking at the OKRs for individuals, for teams, and the organization as a whole. More can be done to establish to what extent the organization is aligned in terms of the objectives and the activities that are being performed. And it is important to note here that OKRs are different than KPIs. In an article at CIO.com, Sarah White denotes the following differences between the two. OKRs and KPIs may seem similar on the surface, but they both address different aspects of organizational performance. KPIs are focused on the performance of employees, creating goals to measure their success in their careers and within the organization, whereas OKRs are focused on the organization, helping companies identify quarterly goals to improve business performance and grow the organization's success. Another way of thinking about the difference between the two can be that KPIs measure organizational health, while OKRs measure organizational change. One is a state of being, one is a state of becoming, what we're trying to get to, who we're trying to be in the future. Again, turning to whatmatters.org, we can see the following table that lays out the differences. KPIs, in terms of the what, have numbers that track the operation of your business, where OKRs, action-oriented goals and measures. The foundation, based on past results or future goals, where with OKRs, mission-based, aspirational, and directional. KPIs monitor the steady state and benchmarks, where OKRs are audacious and bold, tied to the mission. KPIs or actions are prompted when numbers are off track. OKRs, actions are taken as issues arise. KPIs are measured on an ongoing basis. OKRs are time-bound, often quarterly. And finally, KPIs may be the same from quarter to quarter, year to year, but with OKRs, and this is an important difference, change from quarter to quarter, year to year. In order to more fully explore the difference, let's modify an example from whatmatters.com. Let's say you have a community library. One of the things that libraries can struggle with is staying relevant in a world of the internet and online information. A library can have the following KPIs to indicate its current health and performance: number of visitors, number of materials checked out, attendance to library events, computer usage, library cards issued. Now, let's say that the library is looking to change its current approach and organizational strategy. In order to do so, the library sets out the following OKRs regarding attracting more teenagers to the library as a way of expanding its reach and changing its offerings. The objective might be attract more teenagers to the library. Key result 1, 20% increase in teenager visits during the next quarter. Key result 2, additional 2 programs per month aimed at teenagers. Key result 3, 70% increase in social media posts regarding library visits and events in the current quarter. Now, again, KPIs are about where we're at in terms of what we traditionally do, how we traditionally measure success in health, where OKRs are about where we want to go as a new direction, and change as progress is made and or conditions change. And going back to the employee experience point here, let's say you had a librarian on staff who was interested in social media, wanted to know more about social media. Maybe that person creates personal OKRs to fit in with the social media key result that was part of the organization's key results in order to attract more teenagers. So while KPRs, or I should say OKRs, are aimed at organizational change, that doesn't exclude the benefits they can have for employees who are also looking to change, who are also looking to add to their skill sets, who are also looking to evolve in terms of their professional development. They're not necessarily separated from each other. The personal OKRs that an employee creates for themselves can and should be linked to organizational OKRs as well. And if they're not aligned, well, maybe there are some deeper issues that the OKR process can surface that need to be discussed and reviewed. Now, thinking in terms of the general benefits of OKRs, the following are typically cited. There's transparency of OKRs at every level. There's an ongoing tracking of progress. There's a shorter time frame for this process to make it a more ongoing evaluation framework. There's re-examining alignment in the organization between objectives and behaviors. There's seeing one's role in relation to organizational objectives. And finally, there's prioritization of employee OKRs as well as organizational ones. But as with everything, these benefits do not mean that others have not cited problems with the approach of OKRs. And again, if you go online and you do a search of problems with OKRs, you'll find plenty. A blog at radicalproduct.com titled Why OKRs Fail and What to Do About It lays out a number of issues. The first is that OKRs can lead to short-term thinking because, after all, it's looking at things on a short-term, ongoing basis. And while there is benefit to having shorter time periods in which evaluation takes place, it can result in people only looking toward short-term performance over long-term gains. Additionally, this kind of orientation can create anxiety to continuously update key results no matter how much progress is made. We might feel like we accomplished a lot in a short time period, but guess what? Time to accomplish more. And that can frankly lead to burnout. Another issue is that even though people are supposed to set aspirational or stretch goals, they might set goals that are easily achievable, especially when key results are tied to compensation. As a result, innovation can be stifled because people set goals that involve minimal risk, less experimentation, and ultimately less innovation. It's one thing to say you want to set stretch goals. It's another thing to put that at risk of not reaching those goals. And if you only reach 60 to 70% of that goal, are you going to be punished? Is it going to be a negative review? Even though the 60 to 70% of a stretch goal might be better than 100% of a previous KPI. So how is management going to deal with these discrepancies? Danny Denhard in his blog lays out additional issues. In his post, quote, Why OKRs Don't Work, the True Problems with OKRs, he lists that creating OKRs at the team or department level can create competition between those groups, thereby limiting cooperation. So if you have people competing against each other on the one hand, you might think that's good, that healthy competition is a good thing, but it's not good if it's a zero-sum game where the teams in competition view the other's success as threatening themselves. And as a result, you're not going to have collaboration. Also, when starting with misalignment, OKRs between departments can start broken and not get much better. Thus, you can end up with infighting and finger pointing, which is what you're trying to avoid by bringing everyone together. A metaphor for this might be looking at a family dinner at Thanksgiving, where no one is on the same page in terms of what is on the menu, what the menu should be, where folks should sit, and how it's all going to happen. And if you just brought everyone together to figure it out together, the results can be disastrous, more disastrous than Thanksgiving with families are normally.
Appreciate it. Oh, sorry. Did I put you in the spot there? Did I make you look embarrassed? What the hell are you doing? If you're not going to act right around there, be part of the family. You want to make a scene during Thanksgiving? Yeah, really? I do. Because if you don't want to be part of the family, then get out.
Another issue is that it can take time to get the setting of OKRs right. While taking a year might be worth it in the long run, it's not worth it if the organization may fail by taking a year to do so. Taking a year to set OKRs might be the time you need to get the business up and running. If the outcome is a set of unachievable or stretch goals, then people may not be motivated to continue the process any longer. Like we talked about, if you only reach 70 to 80% of your stretch goal, that may be a success in terms of OKR theory, but may feel like it can be treated as a failure. Confusion can arise when you are expected to hit 100% of your KPIs, but only 70 to 80% of your OKRs. And as with other evaluation and performance systems, many of the issues with OKRs lie within the organizational culture itself rather than in the OKR system. In other words, there always can be an issue when theory comes into contact with practice, and especially when that practice in terms of organizational behavior and organizational culture already has problems. But regardless of whether or not OKRs are adopted, there are a number of positive takeaways from OKRs. The first one is the idea of having transparent OKRs at every level of the organization as being a good feature. And how often have employees been left not knowing what those higher in the organization are being measured against and what they should be expected to do? It's a frequent feature that you might know what your measurement evaluation criteria are, but the person who's above you, not a clue. Second, putting people in position to develop their own OKRs in relation to the organization as well as their own professional goals is a really positive feature. KPIs often can be placed upon people whether they identify with them or not, or even if they accurately reflect the person's work. You just get hired and there they are, KPIs that you're supposed to reach. Giving employees some autonomy and ownership can be empowering because now they chose these goals and they're their goals to reach. Third, having shorter timeframes for OKRs can allow ongoing resets in the evaluation framework. Rather than sticking with things that are no longer totally relevant, organizations can reconfigure what key results make sense. Fourth, it is a good feature to focus attention on alignment and misalignment, as always. Do the key results align with the objectives? Do OKRs from across the organization align with each other? What needs to be done to bring these elements together? And if we don't bring them together, what's going to be the outcome? What's going to be the fallout? And so taking time to focus on that alignment and misalignment is a really positive aspect of this process. And of course, there are other positives and negatives associated with OKRs. And you can go online, look for them and find a ton. You can go to whatmatters.org in order to find a whole list or read the book, Measure What Matters by John Doerr. The main takeaway here is to think about how OKRs can be used to improve employee experience and ultimately create better organizational culture and an evaluation framework that feels like it's contributing to that better organizational culture.